Now we're live, apparently. Do you think, Thomas?
I'm refreshing YouTube. I was going to check first.
What happened this way, to be honest?
Well, it says we're live on YouTube, so
I don't see anything.
What's the name of it? 3 hours ago.
Bitcoin group.
It's probably untitled source project, version 1.0. Oh, there it is. One person's watching.
Oh, right. Getting quality content right now.
This video is unavailable, and it's private. I'm gonna check. For unavailable and private.
All right. It's going public. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Going public. 3, 2, 1. And now we're public, so it should be. Would that work?
Hey, yeah, I can see it.
Oh, right. We're in.
If it actually has video, though. Oh, there it is. One person's watching.
Oh, wow.
Where's it like?
Gas now.
Available, and it's private. I'm gonna check.
Is it still private?
Unavailable and private. No, I think it's public now. It's tough to say. All right, there's two
public.
Someone in the chat. Let's see. Does it work? There's like a 2-minute delay or a 1-minute delay. Crypto Raptor, you don't count.
Where's the URL?
Yeah, it's working. If you go to here.
All right. I'm not done making fun of it yet, though. What about my making fun of it? Let's see. Does it work? All right. I can hear it now. All right. Everybody ready? Everybody mute yourself. Here we go. We're going for real this time. 3, 2, 1. The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor. We muted you. Good. Ben Ark from BTC IoT.
Hello again.
Josh Gagala from Vaultoro.
Howdy ho, folks.
Max San, Bitcoin trading consultant.
What's happening?
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. Maybe. Issue 1, market wrap. Stocks Carnage drags Bitcoin down to 9K. The price of Bitcoin seemed to be taking off all the way past $10,000. Suddenly, the stock market was down 5%, and so was Bitcoin, all the way down to $9,000. Dan Eve, what's going on with the price of Bitcoin?
I'm unmuted, yeah?
Now it works.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, now here we go. So, well, I was going to talk about the potential, decoupling that everyone thought was going to happen, and it seems to definitely still be in place. The fact that when everyone panics, they panic in many assets. But I think at the same time, COVID's really kind of muddied the waters with the Bitcoin halvening and how much I think that's affected the price by the fact that everyone's lost their jobs. There's loads of sort of uncertainty, and people kind of want a position of safety. Some people are still a bit panicked. They think there's going to be a second wave of COVID, so there could be a reason to have cash and need cash for the kind of the the impending Armageddon. But we'll see. I think Bitcoin's definitely strengthening its hold in the world. That's for sure.
Josh Gagala. Nope. Now you're muted.
It's sorry. The markets. There's a global market. We're all in it. Bitcoin's in it. It can't decouple. Neither can gold. It's all one market, and it all is the butterfly effect. One thing flutters over here, and it affects the thing over there. And where Bitcoin and gold and these rare assets come into their own is after the fact. It's during a crash, people just need liquidity. They need to get out. They need to cover other positions. They need to get into the thing that is the conduit between all the different markets. And that right now is the USD for Wall Street, and one day it might be Bitcoin, and then we might see a decoupling. But until that day comes, it's after the fact. Bitcoin and gold will be beautiful once the inflation hits from all the crap that they're printing. But during the actual events, it's going to move the rest like the rest of it.
Ben Ark.
Yeah, no, it's just speculation. I mean, what has Bitcoin done in the past few times we've had a dip in the market? It's gone down. So people who are trading Bitcoin, which is where most of the buying and selling liquidity is, will, they'll bet that Bitcoin's going to go down, and they'll sell and they'll put their money into something which they think's a little bit more stable. So it's just Bitcoin being pulled into the wake of the markets, but I'm not entirely convinced that it's coupled and it's actually connected to the markets, because I mean, we're not having the amount of money pumped into the markets which the US economy has had pumped into it. People will be buying something like Bitcoin on the side, I suppose, but it's not having the same, the manipulation which happens in the stock market isn't happening per se directly to Bitcoin. So it's just speculating, and then Bitcoin is just holding. And that's obviously the if the people who are buying and selling are the traders, then they're the ones who are going to affect the price. But I don't think it's anything to worry about. And yeah, as Josh said, given time, everyone will print enough money that Bitcoin will be worth, will be very stable in comparison.
Max San.
Yeah, so we have a very large money market with lots of different economies going on over the world. What we have, I think, essentially is just a constant A/B style testing for what works and what doesn't work. And this whole crypto versus legacy is just a case of integration that happens over time. And we see this as a constant testing phase of every day at the market. It's just legacy versus digital versus cash versus physical and it's just a constant influx. And we just we see this happen, but with the inflation that's currently happening against what's available for actual real world use, we don't have a giant problem with that. So I think Bitcoin's on a steady roll, and it'll continue to be so going forward.
As a person who watches the news regularly, I'm always disappointed not to see the stock market move perfectly in time with the news. Yesterday, we thought it was happening. The coronavirus was coming back and the stocks were going down. Today, at least last time I checked, stocks were up again, virus was up again. So I have no idea what's going on with the stock market. It seems like it's decoupled from reality, and sadly, it does seem like it's dragging Bitcoin with it. Which blends well into the exit question. Dan, Eve, is Bitcoin tracking with the stock market, and will it be higher or lower next week?
I'm going to go higher next week, because I think I want to start positive. And I think we kind of covered a bit about it tracking the stock markets. But I think the thing for me is that whilst all of this is going on, and there's all the chatter about price, and even ourselves getting excited about the halvening, and there's so much infrastructure that's being built, and so many kind of cool ways to use Bitcoin. So many more businesses rolling out the ability to use it via a bit like things like BTC Pay Server, and general bytes and the ATM. So there's just so much exciting infrastructure being built that I don't really care about the price that much anymore, whether it's coupled or whether it's not. I'm just happy that there's more ways to use Bitcoin.
Josh Gagala. Still muted. Ha ha ha.
I'm so sorry. Noob mistakes. It's pendling between 9,000 and 10,000. So it just seems to be bouncing between there. As soon as it gets close to 10,000, people liquidate. And then on top of this, we have the news of the whole stock exchange collapsing. So I think it'll probably stay down at 9K. I don't know, man. It goes up and down.
Very precise. Ben Ark.
I mean, so if you think about supply and demand, then the demand currently is for people, speculators, to sell Bitcoin, bring the price down because that's what they're doing in the stock market. But then some actual demand of Bitcoin is people using it as an opt-out and to have their value in something which isn't going to be, hyperinflated. So the current sort of demand for Bitcoin is as a speculative asset, but then the people who are using and buying and selling it and causing the price to move up and down, that's what they're using it for. But as we've just had the supply, cut, obviously, with the halvening, and as because of the way in which the state in which our economy is in and the money printing which is happening, the demand for a way to be able to opt out and to be able to secure value is going to become higher and higher and higher. So supply halvening, obviously, and then demand increasing, not the speculative asset demand, the actual proper demand for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's price will go up.
Max San. And now you're muted too. Ha ha ha.
So Bitcoin can be essentially all things to all people. We have to think about Bitcoin being from the top to the bottom, the front to the left, the back to the front. So we need Lightning, we need on-chain, we need all kinds of different possibilities to make all wakes of life actually use Bitcoin in the way that suits them in their world and how they facilitate it. And for that, we already see the institutions buying up Bitcoin. We see people on the streets buying up Bitcoin. And we see this whole kind of conglomerate come together as a whole to actually support the economy of Bitcoin. So in my perspective, there's only one way it can be, when it's obviously a deflationary asset in its essence.
Now let's find out if the price of Bitcoin is going higher or lower next week. We'll ask the only predictor of Bitcoin price, the greatest predictor, the magic 8-ball of Bitcoin. Here we go. Will the price be higher this time next week? I remember last time I think it said lower, and I think it was right. I think we're a little bit lower this week. And now it says outlook not so good. So it doesn't look so good that it'll be higher. So the Bitcoin price may be lower for the second week in a row, thanks to the magic 8-ball. Moving on to issue 2. Screen share, full screen, all the buttons. Here we go. Issue 2. The Pentagon has a plan for you. We'd always wondered if the Department of Defense and the U.S. Army ever thought about Bitcoin and Generation Z. Well, it turns out that they think about us all the time. And the Department of Defense has even war-gamed scenarios involving a Generation Z rebellion using Bitcoin to undermine and invade the establishment. Josh Gagala, now that the Pentagon is planning for us, is Bitcoin more or less of a threat to the establishment?
I mean, if they haven't been planning until now, then they're a little bit behind the 8-ball, pardon the pun. But honestly, I mean, of course they've been planning. They've been planning Bitcoin. If you talk to any early adopter, they knew very clearly how dangerous this technology was. Hence Satoshi not wanting to be a public figure, because it's a dangerous, I mean, it's just obvious. It's really quite obvious. So for them just to play war games with it now, I think it's silly. I'm sure that they've already had war games or scenarios played out, or gotten, I don't know, like Ernst & Young or one of these big companies to play it out for them. And see how it can. I remember reading an article about how small countries could be attacked by Bitcoin or their economies by everyone just borrowing as much money as possible and buying it. I think we talked about it last week, buying Bitcoin and then just defaulting because they can't crawl back the money because you've got it as Bitcoin and you don't care about your black mark because their economy's crap anyway. And you don't go on a mobile phone contract, you just buy it outright because you got Bitcoin now. And this could be an attack vector. So there's all sorts of attack vectors. And of course, if they're not playing this stuff out as a mafia that's in charge, then they're not a very good mafia.
Just like to remind everyone to hit that like button. Go ahead and hit that like button now. We have about 30 people watching us and only 8 people hit the like button. So let's get more than 8 hitting that like button. Ben Ark, your thoughts on the Pentagon and their Bitcoin war games?
I think it clarifies that although governments act like they have no opinion on Bitcoin and they don't care about Bitcoin, actually they are deeply concerned on the way in which Bitcoin will affect their country and their economy. I quite like the fact that it's, these game theoretical models, game theory was obviously used during the Cold War by people like John Nash and Rand. And then, the game the game theory maths, which was developed at that time, is the sort of stuff we use in trying to control how Bitcoin works and encourage, miners to mine Bitcoin and so forth, and for it to get some sort of equilibrium. And a lot of that work is off the back of John Nash. So I quite like that connection with, this new Gen Z schizophrenia, which the US have. And it's also fitting when you think of, with the Black Lives Matter movement, and someone like Hoover, who's obsessed by this concept of a black messiah and how out of the way he went to stop that from happening. It just shows the level and the lengths that countries in power will go to keep the status quo and keep themselves in power. And working on these game theoretical models on how to combat something like Bitcoin is, of course, going to be important to them. But it just shows that they know what Bitcoin is. They're paying attention to it, and they should fear it because that's why it's here.
Max San, should the Pentagon fear Bitcoin?
I think a lot of these processes of government bodies and Bitcoin generally is about integration into an existing system. And if you want to empower the people, you can't have your cake and eat it as well. Does the government work for the people or against the people or to control the people? Depends on which side of the stick you look at. It doesn't matter what organization you are, whether you're a corporation or a government. There's enough employees in there that have enough discourse between each other, even not to know what hand is doing what to which person. So I guess there's probably people in there that's all for it and working around how to make it work, and there's people in there that's against it and can't quite work out how to get rid of it. So it's typical from most agencies. So I don't see that as we really don't know. It's like all things to all people. That's the problem.
Dan, Eve.
What? Sorry, what was the question again?
The Pentagon is planning out Bitcoin war games. Who's going to win?
Yes. Right, so I was going to talk about my little conspiracy theory. So I don't believe in conspiracy theories because largely they're just they're theories. But anyway, so if the US knew it was going to lose a bit of the grip on the world with the dollar, and so maybe it was invented. Bitcoin was invented by the US CIA or something as an insurance policy, so that it would eventually end up with this ubiquitous coinage, and then be like, yeah, suckers, we made it, so we've got 1 million in Bitcoin in the bag, and then it would make them leaders again in the world currency wars.
I think now that people may think that's a crazy conspiracy theory, but if you've got someone like John Nash working for you and you're playing these things out, and he wrote extensively about ideal money, so there's going to be a better money, that it's going to come about, and the best move in that game is to have some sort of stake in the making of that currency, so you have an amount of it set to one side in case it does overtake your currency. So I don't think it's a dumb conspiracy theory. I think it's very valid theory, that maybe the US government did have some part in making Bitcoin. It's fun anyway. It's a fun theory.
Yeah, it's fun.
Obvious exit question. Is the CIA Satoshi Nakamoto, Josh Gagala? Yes, no, maybe?
We are all Satoshi. No, it's the CIA isn't Satoshi. It's just they all most powerful organizations, or they are usually just very good at taking advantage of the current situation and have resources to do that. So there's no need for them to invent it. They can just buy a hell of a lot up or steal it from someone that was running a marketplace for things that you could sell in the dark market.
Max San, does Satoshi work for the CIA?
We are all the CIA, obviously.
That's just what they want you to say, just like Spartacus, but we're all the CIA. Ben Ark, Satoshi, government worker?
I think the question is, was John Nash a cypherpunk? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, but he sure did have a beautiful mind. And I guess we'll go back to Dan. Is Satoshi CIA? Your question.
Well, I'm going to not contradict myself, but although that's a fun theory, I don't actually believe it. I just think that all things seem to kind of point to how. Really, I don't know. It seems like everyone else thinks that, so I'm going to go with how. And it's definitely not Craig Wright, who is again now just taking claim to a load of the 80,000 Bitcoin that was stolen from Mt. Gox. So. Wow, things are getting really interesting on that front as well.
We do have breaking news. Craig Wright is the CIA. Yes, Craig Wright is the CIA. Moving on. Did you know the World Crypto Network now has t-shirts? Check out worldcryptonetwork.store, where you can get your own Trezors Don't Float t-shirt. Tired of explaining to your friends how you lost all your Bitcoin in a boating accident? Get the shortcut. Get the t-shirt. Save time. Tell your friends that Trezors don't float at worldcryptonetwork.store. We've also got the World Crypto Network podcast. I updated it. I tried to do it every day this week, and then you won't believe it. YouTube blocked my IP address for downloading too many YouTube videos. I took a long time to figure this out. None of my programs understood what was going on, but I fired up the VPN, and the podcast is up to date again. That rhymes. Moving on to issue 3. Everyone loves Bitcoin and everyone loves protests. We've been covering the Black Lives Matter protest for about 2 weeks now and waiting for someone to mention Bitcoin. And here we are in a speech directly from, I'm going to guess, Los Angeles. A gentleman in the speech was speaking to the crowd and he mentioned Bitcoin as a possible way out for the protesters, a way to change the situation. Let's listen.
Energy out here. My condolences to all the families who lost their loved ones. And I got some ideas on how we all move forward. I got 3 points I'd like to present to y'all. These are my macro ideas. These aren't full solutions. We're going to need people for the micro ideas to get the finer details. My first solution, I want to present an alternative financial solution to everyone today. The elites of this country and globally use the financial system to oppress us. They are killing us with our own money. There is a new financial system that I want to present to you that's open to everyone. All you need is a phone to start using it. I want everyone to please start learning about a new financial system. This system is called Bitcoin. It was created for this very purpose. So the elites do not have control of the financial system anymore. With Bitcoin, they cannot turn on the printing press and give our dollars to their friends for bailing them out because they weren't being responsible. You cannot bail people out. The elites cannot bail out their friends anymore. Please learn about this system. This system is called Bitcoin. It was created for this very purpose. A great resource is a man named Andreas Antonopoulos. You can look him up on YouTube. Please learn and support this system. You don't have to put all your money into it. Like my brother said earlier, you can put weekly $5, but we will no longer let the elites kill us with our own money. That is absurd.
All right. Powerful speech there talking about Bitcoin. Let's go to Dan Eve. What do you think about Bitcoin and the protesters?
I think it's great. This is absolutely incredible. Like the people are realizing the current financial system and the devaluation of everyone's money just isn't good. I think there was a report that 4.5 million businesses in the US got the sort of handout, and there's no transparency in that. So, you know, whilst all of this cash is flowing, it seems to be flowing to the upper echelons and doesn't seem to be trickling down like they kind of always say it will, like the champagne that trickles down to the top from the top. But the fact is that there's not enough to trickle down, because they keep it all at the top. And Bitcoin it gives us a way to have our own financial freedom and not have to adhere to these rules where your money is being continuously deflated. You've got no say, no power. What's the how much the money M3 money supply has just been like boom recently. So it's just crazy.
There is an infinite cash at the Federal Reserve.
All right, let's go to Max San. Your thoughts on Bitcoin and protests?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. I mean, like generally, when it comes to trying to take a perspective like that, if you take the hands out of the money out of the hands of the people who control the country, then it's anyone's game. You know, it's about a power control structure, and the idea of having a free money is the essence of having a free society, and you can't have one without the other, basically. And in my opinion, like it's very interesting that they came across with this message, because, well, obviously we're in that kind of side from our perspective on this side of the pond. It's a very, very different vibe, you know. But I am very interested to see how people can integrate a new monetary system to encourage freedom from deflation from people who you don't even know, essentially, or inflation, from your currency you're holding that they're printing and devaluing you as an individual and your work and your past.
Ben Ark.
I think it's no secret that I'm not the biggest fan of capitalism. However, I absolutely despise crony capitalism and neoliberal control over money. It's a true evil. So that's where the neoliberals, a very small collection of people, have control over how money is printed and then where that money goes. And it may feel like, like Dan said, with the trickle-down economics, you feel like everyone feels like they're getting a little bit richer, but actually the divide between the hyper-rich and everyone else becomes more and more. So, you know, the hyper-rich double their wealth. Everyone doubles their wealth. So I have, you know, £100 more. I had £100 and now I've got £200. Whereas the you know, someone with 10 billion, they now have 20 billion pounds. So that's how that divide becomes so much bigger, so quicker. And I think it's less than 40 people now have more money than the bottom poorest half of the planet. It's very lopsided, the way in which value is distributed across the planet. And I'm not saying that I want to take people's value and then distribute it, you know, in a centralized way. But I think when you have a fair, free money, then it will be better distributed, that the value won't be so top heavy, because of course the people who have the control over how money is printed are going to enrich themselves and their friends and family and whatever, and their clan. So no, it's all about building a new world. All these things, all these movements which are happening at the moment. So you have all this anxiety and fear on people's shoulders from quarantine, from the pandemic, and then where do you focus that energy? So, you know, if you have some horrible authoritarian figure in place, it tells you to focus that, and it tells the populace to focus that energy at something like the Jews, and you end up with a Holocaust. But if the people rise up and say, actually, we're going to focus on these important humanitarian problems, then we can build a better world. And, you know, Black Lives Matter is one example. And then movements like, you know, this guy is saying, look, one way in which we can make this world better is to put our value into Bitcoin. So it's all about building a new world, and like props to the dude, you know, for standing up there and actually saying, look, this is how we can impact and make a fairer and better world and take that control from the neoliberal crony capitalist scumbags.
Josh Gagala.
Yeah, I mean, for me, capitalism is nothing more than people having being able to trade freely without hurting someone else. You know, me trading with you. The thing is, the kingpin of good markets are is the liquidity, is the fluid that allows trade to happen without too much friction, and that is the money, the currency. And yeah, so this person bringing that in, and it's funny seeing all the people saying to Andreas in this tweet, I followed you for ages, but now this is where we part ways. And it's like, dude, what? It's always politics, It's, oh, you're getting into politics now. It's like, what? No, like, it's not. He's not a rock star. That has nothing to do with politics. I mean, he's a rock star, of course, but in fact, I'm a big fan of rock stars also saying their political view. I don't. People should say their point of view. I'm tired of people saying, "You should stay in your place." What do you know? Because it's just stupid. Everyone should have their say. You don't have to listen to it, but everyone should have their say, especially if you're on a platform. But anyway, Andreas, obviously, money is political. It's like I said, it's a kingpin in terms of politics, especially when money is printed by fiat of government, then it is by definition political. So, of course, we all know to end the system that it is now, we need to use a different monetary system. So it's good to see. But I think in terms of these demonstrations, it seems like it's kind of like Occupy Wall Street, where the message got so blurry, no one knew what they were demonstrating about. It was kind of just anyone with any grievance would stand up and say, "This is and this is the answer." It's kind of like this sort of blurry thing now. Is it about police violence, or is it about using a new financial system? I'm all for it. Use another financial system, but I feel like I don't know. I don't know what the clear, defined message is. And maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just people are pissed off with racist cops.
Well, and I think Josh has a good point here. It's a tough time to try to insert yourself into this conversation. He does a good job kind of navigating it at the beginning, being careful about what he's doing, and then going all out with the Bitcoin pitch at the end. I was really thrilled to see this. I watched a lot of protests. I watched a lot of Bitcoin videos, and then you see one that brings them together, and it was just fantastic. And for me, it was a big example of what I've always said, that people have got to speak to their own communities. I'll speak to the computer geeks that like Star Trek. You speak to your people. He speaks to his people. If everyone can talk and get people to Bitcoin before it's too late, they still have a chance to beat a lot of the banksters to this. There's a guy saying in the chat how the Black community never had access to wealth, and that they were never able to build business on top of business, and art collection on top of art collection, as the Jay-Z song says about the Picasso. And that maybe this is their chance. Maybe Bitcoin could be the 40 acres and a mule that they were promised, and that maybe it could somehow help solve and right this situation. And not just for the Black community or for the anti-police brutality community, but for anybody who's down. Bitcoin is your chance. Hopefully, maybe, can't guarantee the price and everything, but we really do think as a fair money, as an inflation-free money, could be your chance out. So it's exciting to see Bitcoin being talked about in the streets. Moving on to the exit questions. Will the protests continue? Will there still be protesters in the street this time next week? Let's go Crypto Raptor.
I think so, yeah, because they've got that funny little not commune, but the self-autonomous zone. Although I did see a tweet that was quite amusing, saying like, "Oh shit, we run out of food because all the homeless people have stolen it. So can you send like gluten-free loaves and stuff?" But that seems to be building quite a momentum. So I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of they really made an effort to prove that it can be an autonomous zone. And that'll be interesting to see how the government then reacts. But I think all over the world, there's definitely unrest because of police brutality everywhere. And it's obviously specifically for Black lives. And so I think it's not going to go away anytime soon, that's for sure. And the only breaking up of it might be because there's another kind of huge wave of COVID, and then everyone's sort of locked up again and, goes back to being angry on the internet instead of in the streets.
We'll have to protest not on Zoom, though. Not on Zoom.
Yeah.
And ARC.
Yeah, as I said, I mean, I think that this whole pandemic scenario has been it's been state flexing, its power to keep people inside, its power to control people. And I think it makes sense that there's a catalyst, there's something where people can manifest their energy and say, actually, we don't want for, that level of control, and for that control to be violent and to kill people. So it's good, man. It's a good direction of energy. And clearly there is going to be some of the power behind the movement is from all the frustration people have had with COVID, with the pandemic. But it's a bit like playing Sims. If you're playing Sims and then everyone starts rebelling and buildings start getting burnt down, and you think, oh man, I need to kind of fix my city and make it work better, or else everyone's going to get pissed off and they're going to cause chaos. And that's, sadly the way in which authority thinks. So we will see good coming from it. I just hope that people continue to harness that energy for good and positive things, and not for negative things, which has historically happened in the past, and we've ended up with wars and all sorts of horrid scenarios. So yeah, no, it's cool, man. Good luck to him.
Max San.
I think the protests will never generally end. It'll just come in waves. I think more the state. I mean, these things have happened before, time and time again. They're encouraged to have this driving force, and then it's all tails off, and then it's don't forget us, and it'll come back again when it's required. I mean, we've seen this time and time again with many things. It's history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme.
Josh Gagala.
Yeah.
The Occupy Wall Street movement was centralized in Wall Street. And so it was kind of easy just to, getting sick of this eventually. And they just stormed in there and flashbanged and brought some bulldozers in and just pushed them out. And that was the end of that. And winter came, and it was like, But this seems a lot more decentralized. It seems a lot more just everywhere. It's even international, which is strange. I mean, I'm still sort of gathering my viewpoint on that, and it's very hard to have a viewpoint on the whole thing being a white guy, privileged white dude. That's I mean, I don't know if I'm privileged. I guess I am, but go
to South Africa.
South Africa, yeah. I mean, it will just keep on going. People are pissed off for many reasons. Like I said, it's sort of a little bit unfocused, I should say. I think there needs to be generally with demos, you can't just be pissed off, because how's that going to end? Where's their point of negotiation to get to repair something? There has to be clear demands on society, and I think I like that the guy was talking about Bitcoin, because I'm a big fan of technology fixing problems. I think I mentioned it last show about body cams. I think body cams can quite easily fix police brutality problem by streaming live all the time. If there's a person, if the camera can see a person in front of them, because then when they're on the toilet, it's not streaming. And I mean, I guess they can cover it with their hand maybe, but stuff like that. Just stream it to some put a blockchain on it. That's what I'm saying, guys. Put a goddamn blockchain on it.
Well, I definitely agree with the panel. I think the protests are going to continue next week and maybe even far beyond it. At least here in the United States, it's a complete lack of leadership from the White House. He doesn't seem to understand their problems. He doesn't seem to know what they want. And there's no attempt to give them what they want or to even start having meetings. As I postulated this morning on the Thomas Hunt Show, we could have meetings, we could have commissions, we could have experts coming in. They should be doing panels and reports and reporting back. And each week we could discuss the new report, and we could say if we like or not, we could build towards a solution together. But that hasn't even happened. No one's even trying that. There's no panels, there's no reports, there's no discussion, there's no speeches. They're just hoping that it goes away. And I agree with Dan. Again, the second wave of the COVID virus might be the only thing to make people stay home, because they're not scared of the police and the rubber bullets and the flashbangs. They keep coming back after that. They've ratcheted that down a little bit. We might see more peace in the future, but I don't think we're going to see an end to the protests anytime soon. Moving on to issue 4. Issue 4, corporate censorship. Zoom shuts down accounts of activists holding Tiananmen Square and Hong Kong events, as well as Coinbase starting to work with the IRS and DEA to provide analytics to help bust users that probably bought their Bitcoin at Coinbase anyway. What's to say about these two companies going so directly against their users? First, about a week ago, Zoom announced that they would not be encrypting their unpaid calls because they preferred to, and this is amazing, but they preferred to turn their unpaid users over to the police. So if you paid Zoom, you were safe. This week, Zoom has busted into several Tiananmen Square memorials and shut them down, presumably because individuals from China were in the memorials, as well as the fact that China does not like Tiananmen Square and Hong Kong memorials. It's time to delete Zoom. It's time to uninstall Zoom and stop paying them. We're using Jitsi today, and it mostly worked. And is the same thing true of Coinbase? Coinbase is now selling an analytics tool to the IRS and the DEA to help bust the very users that they've created. Coinbase sold you your Bitcoin. Now Coinbase is going to help bust you for buying Bitcoin. Max San, which one is worth, Coinbase or Zoom? And why are they doing this?
Well, I've got a few different this is a very large discussion here. It goes. First of all, somebody from Coinbase actually came on and said that the complete opposite of that article on the community board. So it's kind of hard to see what people are actually doing behind closed doors. First of all, I mean, I think I take all media with a face value. I don't trust the paper it's printed on, which it says a lot for itself. And from the Zoom side of things, there's another issue regarding the actual process of you get what you pay for. But then we kind of have about privatized security generally. I mean, the only thing you expect in this world is security, and you should realistically, if you want a service from somebody, you should pay for it, but you have no choice when it comes to that. But that comes back to those kind of anarchistic beliefs and freedom of choice and capitalist structure of who you pay to protect you at the end of the day. So can you work out a way where if you don't want to use their services, no one's forcing you to use them. So, and if nobody's forcing them to decide whether they want to have them as a customer, it's like they're open about it. It's not cool. Like I personally, I wouldn't want to use them, but that's about a forethought. People, you want to use a service like that and expect everything for nothing, then well, you're gonna get what you know what I mean. That's where do they draw the line? They're not setting up a multi-million-dollar business for nothing for the good of people just to use their services at the end of the day for the good of their health.
Josh Gagala, do you get what you paid for?
Yeah, Max is spot on. The important thing is to be an educated consumer of products. That's the checks and balances that free markets have, is that you should check what is in line with your moral compass. And if you feel that Zoom is spy on you or has spyware in it, or you don't like that, but you don't like that they're charging too much, or you don't like that they're canceling Tiananmen Square memorials, then don't use it. Don't use it. I mean, that's, as you can see, point right here. Is it pointing in the right direction? Jitsi. Probably the other direction. Yeah, we're using Jitsi now instead of Zoom, and like Thomas said, it's mostly work. It's probably user error to begin with, but this is the way that the internet should work. Is free and open source, and it gets better the more people use it. The more people use it, the more people are interested in bettering it. And so, I think I heard about Jitsi maybe 4 months ago, and it's just I'm amazed by it, and it's free to open source.
I thought it was a Slack clone. I still don't know what it is. Let's go to Dan Eve.
Well, I think actually, so we're using Jitsi now, and it was, there was a bit of kind of configuration, but once we're over the hurdle, I think so far it's actually pretty good to use. I like it. I've actually just downloaded also the fact it's open source, which is cool. The fact that if you're using free services, usually sadly you are the data. That's just it. You're not getting something completely for free because you're giving your information so that the companies can make money. But I've been moving more and more to open source stuff, and I just think so I've just shifted to Outline for my VPN. So I use a VPS, a Vulture VPS, and then all my traffic now just goes through that. There's obviously Open Broadcaster, which I'm just sort of getting to fiddle around with now. But yeah, open source software is definitely the way to go. And I think that Zoom, companies like that, Coinbase, who I think Coinbase are different from a financial perspective. They're getting the pressure, from the government saying basically you made loads of people millionaires and we want to know who. But it's awful for them to sell people out effectively. And you're exactly right there, Tom. They sold them the Bitcoin, and now they're kind of chopping them out. But at the same time, everyone has their own obligations to pay tax. And if they didn't pay tax, or if they did pay tax like their obligation, then they wouldn't have a problem if Coinbase. But we'd rather they just didn't give them the information. Obviously, bad Coinbase.
Ben Ark.
Yeah, it's all quite simple. These are private companies. Why do you expect anything more from a private company? They're going to do whatever's in their financial interest. So if there's 1 billion people on China and Chinese mainland who are using Zoom, and they don't want to get in trouble with China, and they're worried about Zoom being that China's stopping people using Zoom, then that company's just going to go where the money is. It's just like that Vans scenario, which we talked about not long ago on the show, where Vans didn't allow a design. So they had a competition for a design for a shoe. And then there was a design which was paying homage to the Hong Kong protests. And then Vans then pulled that design because they don't want to piss off, the place where they get their shoes manufactured.
And just as he was praising open source software, I don't know what's happening now. It says you're muted. Wow, it's got everything. I don't know.
I think it's more about his internet connection.
I think we lost Ben. All right, let's move on. On the Zoom thing, it was very interesting. At first, there was all the security problems. They claimed it was encrypted, but it wasn't really encrypted. There was some kind of a war driving thing where you could randomly get into people's chats. That sounded fun. And then there was the whole privacy thing where Zoom was watching your whole screen, and that your work could watch you, and that your chats weren't private. As we were mainly using Zoom just to broadcast to YouTube, which I'm not sure is still working, but I hope it is. It didn't much matter to us if it wasn't private, so that wasn't a problem, but it kept drifting and it kept drifting. And then they were going to sell out all the unencrypted non-pay users. And it didn't matter because I wasn't a non-pay user. But then they started blocking the Tiananmen Square memorials and the Hong Kong stuff. And I was like, well, this is getting really bad. I don't know if we can support this Zoom thing anymore. So rashly, I canceled it during the show. Ben's back. And yeah, we'll see if the thing still worked while you're gone. That's what I'm really wondering.
Yeah, no, it should continue to work on the YouTube stream there. But no, as I was saying, like, why can you trust a private company to do anything more but just do whatever's best for the shareholders of that company? And like, I'm not sure I subscribe to the idea that you get what you pay for when it comes to security, because we are in fact using a free and open source project now. So clearly that is a better option for us, and it's a better option for most people. And you can run Jitsi on your own server for even more privacy. So I think more and more when companies act in a way which reminds us that they're private companies, and they can basically do whatever they want. Where if it increases their shareholder value, then more and more people will move to free and open source solutions, and they'll understand why free and open source is important. Yeah, so it's good, man. It's good that we're using this software. Just by using free and open source, you're contributing to it, and you're opting out of something like Zoom. And then maybe, if enough people use the free and open source alternative. It will encourage the proprietary options to be a little bit to do what the users want. So this is the way in which, if you do want private companies, this is the way in which you can keep them in check. And that applies, with Bitcoin, that applies to just money in general. Like we can force the hand of how money works and make a better money just by opting out of fiat and using Bitcoin. So no, I'm glad we're using Jitsi, and I hope we keep using it. And so far it's performing well.
This really brings a good question. It was exciting to see all the normal people using Zoom, and I was really excited that they were getting into video conferencing. But isn't this a little like Huawei, where you can't trust the company because it's Chinese? Is there starting to be a reason where we're going to have to say Skype is from Microsoft, Microsoft's American, so it's probably good, and whatever good is, monitored by the NSA good, but monitored by the Chinese government good? What level of good are we going to have to go at? Are we going to have to reevaluate all our software based on the company and the country that it's from?
Don't trust a private company to be moral, because a good business does whatever it does to make it needs to do to make money, and that's just good business, and that's a good business. So don't think that it's going to in some way morally be superior to another company.
Max Sand, does it matter what country your software is from?
Your software can be made anywhere. It's about the implementation, I think, that counts. I think just because somebody's in a company, more like a public company, it depends who you're beholding to at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're beholding to shareholders who are not aligned with your true values, then obviously it's a problem. But if the people behind a company are all aligned in the same ideals, then it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think you should be quite so quick to judge there, Ben. Maybe, you never know, but for the most part, the world's not black and white.
Dan Eve, international spyware?
I don't know. I did read a few articles. I'm sure. I think it was John McAfee was one of the people that said that all the rumors about the vulnerabilities in Huawei was more of there's nothing. There's no base to it, and it's more political. Like it's an unproven thing, and that kind of. It does seem like it's a logical thing. There's a big advantage to being the people who help roll out the 5G network across different, across the world. And if you supply the technology, there's a number of advantages that you have. So, I can understand how that could have been a kind of political commercial decision from certain, countries to kind of, maybe make out that there was a bigger risk than there actually is. I don't know, but then I'm not I was going to call myself an encryptographer, but that would make me sound like an idiot and definitely not a cryptographer. But yeah, so I don't know at the end of the day. I can only just, read stuff. But I think 5G ultimately, I'll be honest, living in the UK, that with our infrastructure, I can't wait for it. I don't care if the antennas start attacking me and running amok, as long as I can sit there in my bloody house and use the internet, without an issue. So yeah, bring it on. 5G, Huawei, all that, whatever.
And now we turn to Josh Kagala, an Australian living in Germany, designing software for the UK. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. Cryptoraptor, don't be a craptographer. That's all I'm saying. That's as long as you're not a craptographer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where software's built. Oh my god! I mean, some of the teams that I've met along the way, they look so. I don't mean to seem racist, because all lives matter, and absolutely. But you hear some accents and you think, ooh, this is a little bit sketchy. So do I trust these people? But the great thing about the open source is you just read it. You read the code, or you get someone to read it that you trust. And hopefully with open source, you have enough people to read it that someone would raise a red flag. And that's the beauty of it. Unfortunately, there's still has to be business sense. That's the problem that I think businesses deal with open source, is that someone doesn't like it and they fork everything you've done, and then they start their own thing, and it's always a battle, that battle of open source. And I think if you do fully jump in, I think it is a better way to go.
And as far as why, I don't know if you want any foreign company controlling your communications infrastructure. And the same kind of thing for Zoom. I mean, a lot of people unintentionally put their secrets on here. People are having family conversations. People are stuck at home because of the virus. And this has always been a problem with centralized software. Facebook, Skype, anything else, as long as it goes through a centralized server, there's a chance for someone to capture it and watch it all. I always told the Facebook people, I was like, I know your engineers have access to all the data, and I think that's unsafe. And they eventually ended up agreeing with me and removed access from their engineers. No one has access to the data now, at least theoretically. But with Zoom, with Skype, with why, with all these new things, there's all kinds of new ways to spy on people. And I think they've got teams working on it round the clock. They've got lots of smart guys doing it. So,
but software is a lot easier to get around with that sort of thing. If you look at Jitsi, you run your own Jitsi server. You can use Jitsi, but you can just fire up your own Jitsi server and use that and invite people to come along and make rooms and public rooms and all sorts. So it's all about people getting educated, and it's about the open source community making it easy enough, because that's really what anyone cares about, is convenience. Easy enough to just go, I need a chat program, I need it now, I need it for 10 people, and I need it to stream. And this is the thing, open source takes a while to catch up.
Well, I'm impressed.
What I was amazed.
Go ahead, Ben.
What I was amazed at when this pandemic thing first happened, there was a whole bunch of pictures of we have Boris, and he was on the having a conference call with all these other leaders and international leaders, and it was all on Zoom, and they had 20 international leaders, and there's a photo of this conversation, a private conversation, all going through Zoom, and I'm like, God damn, man, have you got security services? Can one of you please just set up a private Jitsi server, and have some sort of encrypted communication between? Why are you using Zoom? I was absolutely flabbergasted. Yeah.
Wouldn't it have been amazing if the kind of poor Jenny thing happened to Boris, and he's like, oh, just bear with me a second, and then everyone carries on, and then he just takes the laptop and he's just fucking doing a massive
himself.
Oh, poor Boris. Oh.
Definitely could happen, and it's surprising, Ben, not to see them thinking about security in a situation like this. I know I used to work for corporate lawyers, and all of the information we handled was client documents, and it could not get out. And we didn't use a foreign email server. We didn't use Microsoft email or any of those things, Gmail. We hosted everything locally, and none of the documents got out because we didn't allow them to. So, and it takes a lot of planning and practice and security systems. I'm sure a lot of military guys lost their minds seeing them joking around on Zoom. Let's move on to prediction or story of the week. Ben Ark, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, not really ready, but I mean, it's the hack sprint this weekend. So Jeff Fulmo in Berlin is holding another hack sprint. Please do get involved. There's a wiki page somewhere. I think it's fulmo.wiki or something. And there's a Mattermost you can join. It's a nice free and open source board. There's loads of cool things going on. So Lightning Network centric stuff, but we've got a whole bunch of challenges for people to do. So one of the challenges, which I put on there yesterday, is to anyone out there who's got one of these little M5 stack things. The reason I wasn't on last week because I was busy hacking away at this thing and turned it into a little hardware wallet. So I've been working with Stepan Snigarov, who wrote the Arduino Bitcoin library, which makes it very easy to set up a hardware wallet on one of these things, and on ESP32. So I've got a couple of little devices here. So I've got another little ESP32. It's got a camera. I'm going to get that to be able to scan QR codes and things. And this is $15. I've got another one here, which is pretty cool. I want to turn into a hardware wallet. So super excited to be working with him. And there's no reason we put so much emphasis on people building their own nodes and having control and autonomy over running their own node software and hardware. We should have the same emphasis on people experimenting and running their own hardware wallets. Obviously, they're a little bit experimental, and you need to be careful with your funds and don't put too much money on there. But actually, a DIY hardware wallet which isn't subjected to the supply chain attack as part of a multi-sig is actually a really good security solution. Say if you're using a hardware wallet for, I think for most scenarios, you could use a Trezor, to secure your funds. It's great. It's a great product. But say if you were running, say if I was running a Coinbase and I had funds locked up in a hardware wallet, it would be cool to have another hardware wallet which isn't part of the supply chain attack, which could be as part of a multi-sig. So super stoked and excited to be working on that. We'll also be we've got some challenges for people running LM bits and the Raspberry Blitz, of course. There's a whole bunch of Raspberry Blitz development. Version 1.6 is coming out on that. As Dan said before, the amount of just stuff there is being built, amazing projects being built in this space at the moment is absolutely incredible. So the actual value of the Bitcoin infrastructure is leagues beyond where it was when the price was at 20K. So I'm sure the price will follow. But no, join the hack sprint. It's free for anyone to join. Don't be intimidated. I'm a doofus. I don't know what I'm doing half the time and ask stupid questions. And everyone's very forgiving. So join in, just join the Mattermost, see where you can contribute, have a chat to people. There'll be some live streaming where you can jump in and chat to people as well. There'll be people with video games which they're developing where you can pay and get funds through Lightning Network. So that really is the place to be if you want to have a look at some of the sort of cutting edge projects which are being developed in the space at the moment. Really looking forward to that, and hopefully we'll be able to do a WCN stream as we did the past couple of hack sprints, and we'll get that on here. And it'd be cool if we could bring in some of the audience members as well and have a little chat with them. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And then I think that's pretty much it, to be honest.
All right, Dan, Eve, prediction or story of the week. Go ahead.
My story of the week is I've got two. I'm going to be slightly greedy. So the first one was that we made a slight mistake with paying people. The benefit of Lightning is that Lightning is very quick. The problem is it's quicker than your third parties auditing whether people have submitted stuff correctly. And if they tell you that their record is fine and it's been audited, and then have a separate report, it's basically a load of people did some dodgy survey stuff, but it's all sorted. Got some cool new stuff coming in for Reward Portal. And the other story, okay, so that was just my little. So if you go to rewardportal.com, mini shill and earn some sats or whatever. But we don't sell your data, but it does involve connecting social media and stuff. But the thing that is cool, the story of the week, is actually it's more the story of. Can I share? Let's share the screen. Okay. So it's more the story of this time last year. And this time last year, well, kind of within a few days. So it's my son's birthday in 2 days' time, on the 14th of June, which means on the 13th, which was a year ago tomorrow or something like that, Andreas was doing a coin scrum, and I what I basically did was there was a load of questions that you could ask, and so I kept on literally trolling with questions about Craig Wright being the second coming of Jesus and stuff, and it was all quite funny. But I got home. By the time I got home, he found it quite humorous. Well, kind of. But when I finally got home, I then had to rush to the hospital, and then my son was born. So whoop-de-doo, that was awesome. But yeah, so that came up in my timeline and made me chuckle. So that's it.
Happy birthday to Dan's little boy. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's go to Josh Gagala, story of the week or prediction. Go ahead.
Yeah, happy birthday. That's
I think Dan, you have to stop sharing your screen. I don't know how to.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Story of the week. The Lightning Hack Day sprints are really awesome. Get over to, like Ben was saying, the Mattermost, which is mm.fullmo.org. Fullmo, like Latin for lightning, I think. Check it out, because I think there's so much cool stuff. Like Ben said, it's really, really fun as well. A great community and full of open source stuff. Mattermost is like an open source Slack, and then they use Jitsi. It's really cool. Story, I don't know, like news is we're finally going to be releasing our affiliate program on Vaultoro. So that's really exciting. We're giving away 1 gram of gold for every user. It means you get half a gram and the person you bring on board gets half a gram, plus you get 20% of their trading fees. So it's pretty cool. So I'm really excited about that because I just want more volume of people trading in gold and Bitcoin. Good old bullion, rare numbers and rare metals working together.
How do I sign up to that then? What do I just go to the Vaultoro website and?
Yeah, the Vaultoro website. I mean, we're going to have a new sign up where the KYC is not right at the front, so that'll be really nice. I mean, the KYC, by the way, is not mandated by the government because we're trading a good for a good, so there's no fiat involved. The reason why we take the ID documents is because it's your gold in your name as your asset, and that's so we had an issue with some people dying and they're holding gold, and then their estate's like, oh, this email belongs to the deceased, and it was, we had to spend all this money on lawyers trying to figure out if they're the real one. Whereas it's very easy to go, look, this is the photo of him, we can compare that to the photo of the person's gold that belongs to them. So, but yeah, you just go along and sign up.
All right, check it out at vaultoro.com. Max San, a prediction or a story of the week. Go ahead.
I think I'll go for a prediction, I guess. I think my prediction is going to be the ecosystem generally is going to completely ignore the DEX economy that seems to be popping up and decentralized exchanges and stuff. My theory is we're going to switch from either centralized exchanges directly to nodes doing broadcasting their own offers and doing swaps. So I think we'll have this decentralized exchange stuff like that people are trying to build on the altcoins generally, and all this kind of these tools are not going to be used so much at all. And all liquidity is in the centralized exchanges, and eventually we're going to swap out into nodes having some little piece of plug-in software that broadcasts offers and stuff, and you do atomic swaps. Submarine swaps and all this kind of stuff, the beautiful things that we have going on the Lightning Network and smart contracts with simplicity and stuff like that. I think that stuff is going to come eventually. So we're going to miss out the whole decentralized exchange software.
Sounds great, and glad to see someone finally pick prediction. Too many people just go with the easy way out. Don't bother predicting anything. So I just wanted to share. I don't know if I have a story or anything, but check it out. You can donate Bitcoin or Lightning Network here at Tallycoin. We're trying to raise $1 million for the World Crypto Network. If you click this QR code right now, it would donate $10 with the Lightning Network. And you can also subscribe at patreon.com/WCN. You could subscribe for $5 a month or $20 a month. I think most everyone has signed up for $5 a month, but that's okay. That's a good start. So thanks so much to everybody for watching us. Check out the Lightning Hack Sprint. Looks like this might be the right page. It might not be, but check it out this weekend, Lightning Hack Sprint. Hopefully right here on the World Crypto Network, we'll have some interviews or something from the Lightning guys. And check out Reward Portal at rewardportal.com. You can get rewarded in Satoshis on the Lightning Network for doing simple tasks like answering a survey or adding Facebook to your profile. So check it out. It's a great way to try out the Lightning Network. And I think that's about it. I think we're out of time. I don't know how to end this thing. I think we're going to throw over to Ben for the ending. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah, isn't it? Yeah. So thanks everyone for watching, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.